build this from the
Hi,
top
my name is
down.
Maria. Today we're doing the simple distillation procedure. And for the simple distillation, you need several components. Glassware. You need your round bottom flask, 50 milliliters. You'll pre-weigh your 3 compounds. We're using cyclohexane, hexane, and toluene today in a 1:1:1 ratio for 30 milliliters. Use a 2-finger clamp and clamp it tightly.
Otherwise, your glassware looks like this.
And once you clamp it, ensure it's tightly
The
clamped.
white parts are what you will
And
get.
take your adapter, your thermometer adapter. Ensure you have an O-ring.
Now,
And
you want to make sure your
make
column
sure
is as straight as
you
possible.
use grease and oil
So
the joints.
adjust your
So I
lap jack
already oil these joints,
as you can.
and this is the mill joint. You'll oil it and you'll put it
Next,
into the
we're gonna
round
add
bottom
our
flask, and you'll turn
adapter,
it. As you turn
our
it, you'll
distillation
notice
adapter.
that there'll
before we
be
do that,
a little bit
you
of
wanna fit the thermometer onto it.
color
Now,
or
when you open up
or
the
a
distillation
space that'll be
adapter
created.
head,
That's a seal. It's a tight seal. Take your thermometer, place it into the O-ring.
that you put on the
As you
inside.
insert it, ensure that it
So
goes
you can
close to the
stop
bottom
the temperature.
of where the joint is, the first joint. So the thermometer needs to face you, so you're able to read, and the bottom of the thermometer needs to
secure it back on.
read. And this is very
Now,
important because when the
It's
reflex
very
starts,
important to
that's
make
how
sure
you'll
that
monitor the temperature.
Your
And
thermometer,
then take the cap,
your thermometer is
and
just
insert
below
it,
the sidearm.
cap
Because when the
the
vapors come
thermometer.
up, you want the temperature on the
and
thermometer.
ensure that it's
The
tightly
temperature of your vapors.
closed. Take
So
your
that are going to be
condenser.
escaping an inside arm. So you
With
want
your
it to be just
condenser,
so.
you'll
Now again, grease the
You'll
joint
have
a little bit.
one portion which is where the water is going to go out, and ensure you have a clamp holding the end of it so that the water
Seal
doesn't splut out when it's coming.
And put
Take
a
the
keg
rubber
clamp in
tubing.
place.
And this is for the water that's exiting the condenser. It has to be on the top portion. So first of all, oil your joint
And
again,
secure
the
the
mill
pressure of
joint,
your apparatus.
place your condenser,
Next,
and
you're gonna add your
twist
water.
it to seal. And then you'll take your exiting tubing and
Add a little bit of
place
grease.
it
Again, the grease goes on the male
into,
and the
I'm
bottom
sorry.
sleeve.
I actually forgot. Do not do this before clamping using a keg clamp. So you'll take your keg clamp and you'll clamp the
Seal it
joint
again.
to ensure it's completely tight.
Now make sure your
And
water
you'll
condenser
insert
is pointing downwards.
The
like so.
tubing.
And again,
This is for the water
apply a keg
exiting
clamp.
because the water is going to go in through this end and it's going to exit this end. And what you put in the sink is clamped so it doesn't splut out.
You're gonna
Take your
add the
second
last
piece of
to your
tubing.
apparatus,
You'll
the back
insert
of
it
the adapter, just to
into
give
the
it some air and
into the
direct it
tap. But before
downwards.
you do that, if for whatever reason it doesn't go in,
grease the joint.
you can use a
Again,
little water
always grease
to
the
make
nail
it
joint.
wet, and that'll allow it easily fit. Same thing, you can wet it a little the other end of the tubing, and you can insert it into the condenser. And this is the water in portion, which is
Then
on the
you wanna
bottom
make sure your
end
apparatus is
of
always
your
secure.
condenser.
You see it,
You
you
take
tighten it a little bit.
your last piece, ensure that the joint is oiled, and that's you're going to put very little amount of oil, and you'll insert and you'll twist it again to ensure that you seal the joint. You'll see the grease ring, which is what you can see here. You'll see as you twist, you'll notice that there's a ring that forms,
Will come through the back
which
of
is
the
forming a seal.
and into the graduated cylinder, where you can
And
see
then
1 milliliter
you'll
increments,
take
or
another
half a
keg clamp
milliliter
and clamp it,
increments, depending on what you're asking for,
forming a tight seal,
what the volume is,
and your apparatus is
will
set up.
temperature. Again, make
For
sure
now.
your thermometer does not drop.
Make sure
very
you
low.
have 2 big jacks.
As you adjust your
And for
apparatus,
your jack,
it might
the
drop
first
a
one
little
will have the heating mantle, which is a 50 mil heating
bit.
mantle,
And make sure your
and get a
apparatus is
varia,
as well.
and you'll attach the heating mantle to the varia.
You're gonna be attaching
The heating mantle will be attached to the plug here. You can either use this varia, or you can use the varia here on the table. You'll place your heating mantle on the jack right below your round bottom flask, and you'll raise the jack.
We're gonna connect this tubing.
And you want to be able to leave enough room to lower and raise the jack. So what I can do here is I can lower my apparatus to a level that's good enough to be able to move the jack back and forth. So once you set up your heating mantle and you've set it up and you're ready, before you even start, ensure that your heating mantle actually works. So turn on your variac and just wait a few minutes and touch it and just make sure that it's working. If it is working, then you can turn it off for now until you're ready to start the experiment. Once you've set up your apparatus and you have your heating metal on, make sure that you have something that you can place, either a big jack, or I'm just going to make a small adjustment here to make sure everything is able to fit. And I'll raise my jack so that the condenser is right. I have a 10 mil graduated cylinder that I'm going to use to make the volume measurements right below the tip of the condenser. And now I'm pretty much ready to start the experiment. You turn on your variac. Don't put the heat too high to monitor the temperature. Ensure everything is tight and ensure that your apparatus is straight. Everything is straight and level. And have your table ready on your notebook. Have a table of volume versus temperature. And you're going to record every 1 milliliter. You're going to record the temperature based on volume. So for the first milliliter, I'll record the temperature reading, and I'll keep doing that until I have all my readings and I've evaporated most of the liquid. So we'll just wait for the solution to start boiling, and then we'll start recording the reading. When the solution starts boiling, you'll pay attention to the reflux, and you'll wait until you see the reflux reaching where the thermometer is. And once it reaches there, you'll notice that it'll condense through the water condenser and it'll go through into the water. So, and as we can see that the heat is going through, and I have my jacket condenser running. And so now we'll wait and we'll show you the next step when the solution starts condensing and we will start measuring the readings. So you'll notice now that the solution is boiling, and you can see the reflux. You can notice the reflux is going up and it's touching the thermometer. And once it hits the thermometer, it starts condensing because this is cold water and it's condensing the solution. And if we wait a little longer, we'll notice that some of the vapor will go into the condenser and it'll condense, and that's what we're waiting for, the first drop, which should be coming pretty soon. So we're waiting for the vapors to increase and create a drop. And when that first drop occurs, that's the zero temperature, and there it goes. You can see it's starting to collect. And we're going to wait for it to get to the 1 milliliter mark, and we'll record in our notebook 1 milliliter, and we'll record that temperature. So you have to pay close attention to your measuring your 10 milliliter graduated cylinder for the volume measurement. And as soon as it reaches the 1 milliliter mark, you're going to look at your temperature and you'll record that temperature. And you'll keep doing that for successive volumes until it's done. So during simple distillation, you're going to collect fractions. And now I'm collecting the 17th fraction. You're going to collect fractions at designated volumes. So at this point, you'll remove your graduated cylinder and you'll have another pre-measured amount for 1 milliliter that you would use with your empty test tube to collect the 1 milliliter of solution. So this is the 17th fraction. Make sure your test tubes are pre-labeled, and you'll slowly collect 1 milliliter. And also ensure that your drop rate for your from your distillate is 1 drop per second. 1 drop per minute. So, is it a second minute? Per second, 1 drop per second, I'm sorry. So, as you can see, I'm collecting it, and I'll measure to ensure that I have 1 milliliter. I'll empty my full graduated cylinder into a beaker or a measuring cylinder, and I'll put it back. So I have my 1 milliliter, my 17th fraction, and I'll put a stopper in it, and I'm going to use it for GC. Which is gas chromatography, just to make sure that to determine what compound was in that mixture.